Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is the screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, just wait a minute. I'm waiting for one more people to join. So, the topic that I would like to discuss, I'll request everybody to switch off your kind of audio if you are not using it, right? So, the topic that I would like to discuss today is very important and also very relevant and very much kind of known to you. It's environment and development. Basically, if you look at so right from the beginning, when we are talking about the interlinkage between economy and the environment, what we found is that you see many economic activities are directly linked with the environmental quality or in general environment. When you talk about environment, of course, maybe two things probably we can visualize. One is the environmental quality, definitely, and the other one is the environmental asset or resource itself. For example, if we have kind of more economic activities which require more of environmental resources, many of which are non-renewable resources, so we have to make use of them. So more economic activities means more use of non-renewable resources. Okay, the kind of more degradation of the environmental resources in terms of quantum is concerned. So that way, in fact, economic activities are directly responsible for lowering the stock of non-renewable resources. So, for example, if we think about a particular growth rate today, as of now, as you know that Indian economy was in recession. Okay, so growth rate was negative. So, under those situations, the government is planning to bring the economy back to the track. So, for that, the government might have actually thought about a particular growth rate which might be achieved. Now, if we have to think about a particular growth rate, the activities have to be boosted up. So for those activities, many other things are required. For example, energy will be required. Okay, electricity will be required. So energy or electricity, so these things have to be procured or maybe generated only from the environmental resources, be it the non-renewable resource or be it the renewable source, whatever that may be. So ultimately, it will come from the environment only. So more economic growth is associated with more use of the environmental resources or natural resources. Obviously, so higher the use of the environmental resources, higher will be the degradation of the resources in terms of quantity as well as in terms of quality. So that way, there is a trade-off between economic development and the kind of environmental resources. So that is what we would like to see. So in the face of this trade-off between more economic activities and environmental quality or environmental resources, how to go ahead? That is the question. And obviously, without economic activities, human civilization cannot survive. But of course, we should also keep in mind that the state of environment today is the direct consequences of human civilization. The way we carry out our activities, the way we eat, the way we dress up, all those things are directly linked with the environmental quality. So the air, the water, so all those things might be affected because of the way we conduct ourselves, the way we consume, the way we produce. Okay, so the kind of waste generated out of those production activities or consumption activities might be directly responsible for that. So obviously, there is a trade-off between these activities, and in the face of this trade-off, how to go ahead and how or what are the issues that can be taken up regarding this trade-off between environmental quality and economic development. So those things would like to see in this particular unit. Additionally, we'll try to discuss some other issues which might be directly or indirectly linked maybe kind of issue of poverty and environmental quality, then issue of international trade and environmental quality. So international agreements, so all those things we can take up one by one, may not exactly be associated with this topic of environment and development, but they are kind of indirectly linked with the basic environmental quality issues. So we'll start with the concept of environmental Kuznets curve. So this is one thing which was developed in the 1990s, in essence, you can say. So basically, when you say Kuznets curve, not necessarily environmental Kuznets curve. Actually, this is linked with the concept of or relationship between the growth and economic inequality or income inequality. In fact, in the 1970s, Simon Kuznets carried out a lot of work regarding this relationship between economic growth and income inequalities. And there were certain studies which actually testified that with higher growth, income inequalities start rising. And after a point of time, income inequalities stabilize and then it starts falling. So that way, in fact, by plotting these values of income inequality with the level of per capita income, so the people came up with this concept of Kuznets curve. Or in essence, Simon Kuznets was responsible for that. So it's a kind of inverted U hypothesis kind of a thing. So with income growth, environmental quality gets income inequality gets deteriorated. After a point of time, after it stabilizes, then the situation improves. So that was the Kuznets curve. But in 1990s, I think economists like Grossman and Krüger, so they carried out environmental quality. And after that, okay, so we came across this concept, which became popular as environmental Kuznets curve. Normally, it is believed that some forms of pollution appear first to worsen. So it worsens initially, and later on it improves. Because when countries become rich, their income levels grow. Then, because of certain things, okay, so maybe because they have more amount of income available for spending on environmental quality and others. So what happens at the later stage, so when income of the country is concerned start rising, so their environmental quality starts improving. It is believed that the world's poorest and the richest countries have relatively better environments, whereas the middle income countries are the most polluted. There might be reasons actually. We need to find out why it happens. So it might so happen that in the case of the poorest countries, they do not have a kind of they do not have extracted resources in a massive scale. So they probably are still dealing with primitive technologies of production, or maybe relatively kind of outdated methods of production, which may not generate a lot of environmental kind of externalities, probably. Okay, or maybe the scale in which it is being used, so that might be much smaller than what is being done in many of the middle income countries. So probably that is one of the reasons why poorest countries might be having relatively better quality environment. Whereas in the case of richer countries, so there are two probabilities. One probability is that so they will be having relatively higher income level, and at higher levels of income, these countries might be in a position to introduce better or clean technology, so which might be resulting in lesser pollution. That is one thing. And second thing is, so the countries with higher income, they might also be more aware about the adverse consequences of pollution generation, as a result of which maybe more stricter regulation, particularly in terms of environmental regulation, might be put in place, which might result in improvement in the quality of environment. So that might happen. So which is why in the case of richest countries, the environment might be relatively better compared to the middle income countries. Now, so here, as has been shown out here, actually some economists took up some studies to explore the relationship between level of economic development and environmental quality across countries. Okay, mostly it's Grossman and Krueger who carried out a study in 1995, and later on, in fact, at the same time, there was another study carried out in the World Bank. Okay, so these studies actually popularized this idea that at the initial level of development, environmental quality start worsening, but after a point of time, it stabilizes, and then with increased income level, the quality of environment starts improving. They used a simple empirical approach. What they did is something like this. They tried to formulate a regression model, so in which they regressed data on air quality, ambient air quality, and water quality in a number of cities worldwide on a polynomial. Basically, so what they did, they tried to relate these values, okay, air quality and water quality, with the GDP per capita in different cities of the world. Along with that, of course, there were other control variables, country-specific, city-specific characteristics. So these were also taken into account. So they after that they plotted the fitted values of pollution levels as a function of GDP per capita. So that basically is to demonstrate the relationship between environmental quality and the kind of economic development of the country is concerned. So pollution level is plotted as a function of GDP per capita, and it was found that many of the plots appear inverse U-shaped. Basically, first it rises, and then after that it fell. So that is basically the environmental Kuznets curve, which is shown in a figure over here. You can see this environmental Kuznets curve, the grammatical representation of the figure. On the x-axis, we have the per capita income, which is representative of the economic development of the countries. And on the left-hand side, we have some forms of pollution. So it might be air, it might be water, whatever it may be. So these two things are plotted in the two-dimensional diagram. So that shows initially the quality of environment or pollution increases. That means quality of environment gets deteriorated. After a point of time, it stabilizes and it starts coming down, basically showing that the environmental quality has started improving. So these actually the different phases of this curve are also termed as kind of associated with different stages of economic development. For example, the first part is considered to be associated with early stage of economic development, whereas the later phase, where actually the curve has taken the value has come down, environmental quality has improved, or pollution level has come down. So that stage is considered to be associated with later stage of economic development. However, you see, so here what we find is that there should be some kind of peak after which there will be downhill, or in essence, the environmental quality will be improving. Of course, the thing is that these peaks for individual countries will be varying. Okay, the peaks of these predicted pollution income paths will vary across pollutants. Of course, it might vary for different countries as well. In most cases, they come before a country reaches a per capita income of $8,000. That was the figure that was given. So before a country reaches a per capita income of $8,000, and that is of course in 1985 dollar. So before reaching this $8,000, obviously it is related with relatively higher income countries, because $8,000 is relatively, it's per capita income in essence, so that might be a little bit higher. So that's the thing. This scatter indicated a relationship between per capita income and pollution levels of the shape of an inverted U. Owing to the remarkable similarity of this pattern to Kuznets' findings in 1970s actually between per capita income and inequality across countries. This relationship came to be known as the environmental Kuznets curve. The associated hypothesis with this curve has been put like this. The environmental pressure tends to rise faster than income growth in early stages, then slows down and reaches a turning point, after which it tends to decline with further growth. The last phase is referred to as delinking of environmental pressure from economic growth. So, as has been pointed out already, the turning points for individual pollutants differ across countries. Actually, sometimes it is said that this difference is kind of showing up instability in empirical approaches that estimate one fixed turning point for any given pollutant. Countries which are the first to deal with a pollutant do so at higher income levels than following countries. Perhaps because the following countries benefit from the science and engineering lessons of the early movers. So idea is basically it says that see the higher income countries probably so once they reach a stage at which their income level is means in fact reaches or maybe kind of goes up to a particular level, so then they probably might be in a position to go for better technology and think of kind of controlling pollution, which will give rise to the flattening of the curve or maybe peaking, reaching the peak and after that, coming down of the values in level of pollution. So that might happen out there. So for those countries which might be following these rich countries, they might be achieving it a little bit earlier, probably because of the fact that the technology which might be developed by the advanced countries might be already available for these relatively poorer countries or maybe the countries which are following them. So there are a lot of interpretation or maybe kind of justification for this environmental Kuznets curve. One thing is, okay, in the simple words, it can be stated that in the early stage of development, you see the production methods or techniques will be relatively kind of traditional in nature. You see, so when the population pressure is less, economic activities might also be relatively kind of traditional in nature. So primary sector dominates the economy. So in the primary sector, agriculture is the major component. In the agricultural sector, not much of mechanization takes place. It's the animal power which is mostly used. Okay, the kind of industrial products in the form of chemical fertilizer, pesticides. These things are not used much. So it's a kind of organic cultivation kind of a thing. So pollution generated or pollutants generated will in the economy at that stage will be much smaller in terms of quantity as well as okay, less toxic in terms of quality of these pollutants generated. That is quite obvious. No, we know about that now. So when people do not apply chemical fertilizer to improve production level, then obviously the output generated will also be less polluted. And also, you see, so when we use more of this chemical fertilizers, pesticides, we are also contaminating the water. We are also polluting the air. So many things happen over there. So environmental quality gets a hit. So, but that doesn't remain for long. With growth in population, urbanization starts happening and food demand for the people so keeps on increasing. So to meet the increased food demand, because supply has to be commensurate with that, and for that the higher growth in production has to be ensured. So traditional methods will not be enough. So these methods have to be substituted by modern methods of production. These modern methods of production involve more mechanization, kind of inorganic farming, in which case chemical fertilizer might be used. And that is the case actually, that practice we know since the Green Revolution started, we are moving away from the traditional seeds and varieties to modern varieties, which require more of water, which require more of chemical fertilizer, and also the use of pesticides. So all these things, and in fact, the production process also becomes more complicated and complex compared to the stage at which the traditional methods were dominant. So with a higher population, okay, more production has to be generated, and this more production comes at a sophisticated technology, adoption of sophisticated technology, and also the side effect associated with these technologies. So that is why probably in the next stage it might so happen that instead of agriculture, maybe industrial sector might dominate, and along with the industrial sector, a lot of these externalities or negative externalities start happening. So that directly has impact on the environmental quality. So environmental quality gets degraded. But after a point of time, when this degradation of environmental quality is too much and it affects the health and hygiene of the people at large, then people start realizing that this method of production or a consumption may not be sustainable, because that is having a huge serious impact on the health and hygiene of the people concerned. So this is the point. Maybe after reaching a particular level of income, the countries or the people start thinking that this method is not sustainable. Then we have to think about certain method of production or maybe technique uh, which might help in improving the quality of environment. So the countries or the people start thinking of using better techniques of production which will be less polluting and which will be yielding relatively lesser pollutants. And also at the same time, people realize that this kind of production or maybe development will not be sustainable. So that's why there should be certain restriction in the method of production, or maybe there will be ways of there will be certain newer methods of production. So it so happens that policy will be framed by the government to restrict this type of unsustainable production or consumption. So this policy implementation of these policies, and also along with that the realization of the people to go for kind of better method of production will result in kind of environment gets means lowering of the generation of pollutants, and ultimately the quality of environment gets improved. So this is how the entire environmental Kuznets-Kauf hypothesis can probably be explained. Of course, there are other things also. The same thing can be actually explained in terms of three different parameters or maybe three parts. Theoretically, this relationship, which is portrayed by the environmental Kuznets-Kauf, can be divided into three parts. One is the scale, one is composition, and the other one is technique. So if an economy grows, the scale of all the activities increases proportionately. By scale, we try to mean the kind of increase at the output level in relation to the increase in the inputs. Normally, we use a number of inputs for producing a particular goods or service. Now, if all the inputs are increased simultaneously, then obviously output will also grow. So, if the resultant output is growing at a higher rate of growth of the input, then we can say that this is increasing returns to scale. So, if the resultant output is growing at the same rate of the inputs, then we can say that this is constant return to scale. And in certain cases, it might so happen that the resultant output is growing at a rate which is lower than the rate of increase in the inputs. So that is known as decreasing returns to scale. So whenever an economy grows, the scale of all activities will also increase proportionately. Then obviously pollution will increase with economic growth. That is quite obvious. Economic activities are taking place. Okay, the scale is actually showing up its form. So if growth is not proportional but is accompanied by a change in the composition of goods produced, then pollution may decline or increase with income. So it depends. If the composition of goods produced changes, and if it goes for a better environmental compatible composition, so in that case, overall and pollution in the economy or maybe in the society might decrease. Or similarly, if it so happens that it's kind of a composition is something where actually which is affecting the environment and adversely, in that case the pollution generated will increase. So it depends. If richer economies produce proportionately fewer pollution-intensive products because of changing taste or patterns of trade, it happens actually many a time. Okay, the trade pattern dictates what kind of commodities will be produced by different countries. So if it is international trade and the countries prefer more of organic products, then obviously, okay, inorganic production method has to be substituted by organic method of production. In that case, the overall generation of pollution out of this will be much lesser. So the composition effect basically can lead to a decline in pollution associated with economic growth. That depends actually. You probably will be knowing that Indian tea, which was exported initially to many of the countries in the world, so this is not exported that much nowadays, mainly because of certain kind of quality restrictions or maybe quality issues. So many a time there are reports that the Indian tea contains more than the prescribed amount of pesticides. So obviously, so if that is not changed, okay, so these things will not be cannot be exported. The international market, these things will not be accepted. So in that case, the production technique has to be changed. If the production technique has been changed and lesser amount of pesticides are being used, then obviously that will improve the quality of environment. So depending upon the pattern of international trade also, the composition of these goods might change, which might have a direct effect on the quality of environment. Also, if richer countries use less pollution intensive production technique, so we are talking about three things. One is the scale thing, another one is the composition of the products, and the third one we are talking about the technical production basically. So if those countries which have the economic capacity to use less pollution intensive production techniques, so perhaps because environmental quality can be considered as a normal good. So this, in that case, the growth can lead to falling pollution. It depends actually. So many things are there. Technique of production is important. Okay, if it's a better pollution, a less pollution intensive technique of production is used, so the growth, economic growth can may not lead to higher amount of pollution, rather it might lead to falling amount of pollution. So in essence, this environmental Kuznets curve summarizes the interaction of these three processes. The processes in the form of scale process, composition, and techniques of production. So what you can see is that the environmental Kuznets curve hypothesis points towards a trade-off between environment and development. It seems to suggest that underdeveloped countries will have to forego environmental quality for the sake of attaining a higher level of development. In essence, what you can say is that since it is associated with income level and environmental quality, obviously, if this can be related with the developed countries and the developing countries. Developed countries are relatively rich countries; they can afford to go for in the better technique of production, whereas the developing countries with lesser income level cannot afford to go for kind of sophisticated techniques of production, which will actually result lesser amount of pollution. So in that case, the first priority for the developing countries might be to go for more economic growth or economic development. So in that case, probably in the name of achieving higher growth, the developing countries may have to forego some kind of environmental quality. It further suggests that environmental quality will be taken care of as developing countries attain further level of development. Because so as we have gone through this three components: scale, composition, and technique, so we can find that at higher level of income, the countries can afford to go for better techniques of production or technology of production. So it might so happen that the developing countries, which may not be in a position right now to go for kind of sophisticated technique of production, so may be able to do so once they achieve a particular level of economic development. So in that case, environmental quality will be taken care of as these countries attain relatively higher level of development. So the rationale behind the EKC hypothesis can be summed up as given below. At low level of development, both the quantity and intensity of environmental degradation is limited to the impact of subsistence economic activity on the resource base and to limited quantities of biodegradable waste. So which I told you actually, at the lower level of economic development, production method becomes a little bit, it's not, it doesn't involve a lot of toxicities. Okay, so waste generation will also be limited and the quantum will be less and the toxicity involved or toxicity associated with the waste products will also be relatively much lesser. As economic development accelerates with the intensification of agriculture and other resource extraction and the takeoff of industrialization process, the rates of resource depletion begins to exceed the rate of resource generation. Two things are there in terms of one is in terms of the quantum, the another is in terms of quality. So once industrialization starts happening, more resources may have to be extracted, and in that case, okay, the non-renewable resource extraction rate might be higher, or maybe in the case of renewable resources, also it might so happen. The rate of extraction might be higher than the rate of regeneration. In that case, obviously, the overall asset base decreases. Waste generation increases in quantity and toxicity. It might happen with economic development. But at higher levels of development, structural and services, coupled with increased environmental awareness, enforcement of environmental regulations, better technology, and higher environmental expenditures result in leveling off and gradual decline of environmental degradation. So what we mean to say from here is that there are two different things. So one thing is that depending upon the requirement of the people, the method of production might be taken up. At lower level of economic development, actually kind of relatively primitive methods of production might be used, which may not require a lot of intensive use of the resources, and also the toxicity that will be generated will be relatively less in quantity and less toxic in terms of quality. But once the process of industrialization starts happening or economic development starts happening, the more resources are to be used, and this resource extraction will lead to kind of degradation of the resource itself. Quantum will be affected, and also the quality of environment will get degraded because of the fact that more toxicity will be involved in the process of production. So that will lead to kind of more pollution. Environmental quality gets affected adversely. But at higher level of income, the people will be more aware. So that's why they will be putting in more policies regulating environmental pollution. So that will have direct impact on reducing the environmental pollution, and at the same time, so the countries are also in a position to spend more on clean technology, because at higher levels of income they are in a position to go for cleaner technology. So both adoption of technology and the policies which restrict restrict use of pollution intensive techniques of production will ultimately result in lowering of the environmental degradation. So quality of environment starts improving. So that justifies the environmental Kuznets-Carr. However, the issue is that the empirical evidence in support of the environmental Kuznets-Carr is not yet conclusive to establish the observed trade-off or the hypothesis as a law. So for that to happen, actually, a lot of studies are to be carried out on the basis of time series data, but not many studies based on longitudinal data of developing countries are carried out so far. So that's why actually it's not very proper to generalize these results. But of course, there is a possibility that this type of EKC hypothesis might happen. So the possibility of such studies refuting the trade-off, the way the Kuznets inverted U hypothesis was refuted by such studies, that came up in 1970s cannot be ruled out. Actually, similar thing happened in the case of Simon Kuznets studies, wherein he talked about the inverse relationship between income growth and income inequalities. Okay, not many studies okay, describing the growth pattern of countries over a period of time were available. So that was not clearly established. So similar thing has happened in the case of environmental Kuznets curve. Not many studies are being carried out to depict this relationship over a period of time. So even if the trade-off was valid for the past experiences, its policy implication for future of developing countries may not be very useful. An obvious policy suggestion which can be drawn from the trade-off is that developing countries should focus primarily on growth and economic development goals without it should be focusing probably without focusing much about environmental protection in their early stages. Because actually, many of the developing countries, if you look at, so they got liberated from their colonial rulers maybe after the Second World War. African countries had to suffer this colonial subjugation for quite long. So immediately after their liberation, so their objective was to go for kind of political freedom, or in a sense establishing themselves as political entity. Along with that, they also tried to go for kind of financial, having financial freedom or maybe financial growth. So both those things were there. Economic as well as political stabilization of the countries concerned were the most important thing. Now, obviously, in those cases, it's become difficult to go for stricter implementation of environmental rules. Obviously, that was not the topmost priority. So the topmost priority was to stabilize themselves as political entity as well as economic entity. So in that case, some sacrifice in the form of environmental equality is obvious in the case of developing countries. So otherwise, so as we have been talking about, growth itself is considered to take care of the problem of environmental equality at the later stage. So when there will be sufficient growth, enough amount of resources will be available, and probably that can be put for using cleaner technology or better technology, which will result in less amount of pollution. However, such a strategy can be mistaken because if we do not take into account the environmental quality right from the beginning, there might be certain issues, certain things are there which cannot be reversed. Actually, these are irreversible. In the case of many developing countries like India, so growth-oriented strategy of development was pursued. So which actually didn't give much emphasis on poverty, reduction of poverty, because it was believed that there will be a trickle-down effect of higher growth, and ultimately it will lead to kind of benefits of each and every section of the society. Trickle-down effect is basically the concept which believes in the fact that higher income growth will take care of other problems like poverty, income inequality, and in fact, the benefits of growth will trickle down to each strata of the society. So the poorest person will also get a benefit out of growth. That is the concept of trickle-down effect, but it didn't happen actually. So from 1950s till 1970s, actually the problem of poverty persisted. Problem of poverty persists even today, and in fact, this is one of the biggest problems that the society is facing at large in economic front. Poverty is still out there. Maybe the magnitude might have come down a little bit, but a lot of effort has been given. So, so these issues were not given that much importance initially, but after that, in 1970s, actually people had to think about the concept of redistribution with growth, or redistribution from growth. That means, okay, growth is the priority, but the benefits of growth. Okay, so if these are not percolating down to the lowest strata of the society, so there should be some kind of distribution of that growth across different sections of the society. So that is the concept of redistribution with growth or redistribution from growth. In case of environmental quality, many components are irreversible in nature. So once it is lost forever. So if we feel that at the lower level of income, we should not be careful about environmental quality. It might so happen later on that that component of environment gets degraded already and it cannot be reversed. So the concept of biodiversity you can take into account. Biodiversity is an irreversible process. If it gets degraded, there is no way to reverse that process. So if we ignore it, believing that at lower level of income we are not in a position to think about biodiversity conservation, then even if we earn something or even if we get reach higher level of income, so then it will be too late for the countries concerned to go for preservation of biodiversity, because once biodiversity is lost, it is lost forever. So that might happen over there, right? So that's why it is believed that okay, although controlling pollution or maybe taking care of environmental quality, but some concerns for environmental quality should be there right from the beginning. Otherwise, some of the components might be lost forever. So in this context, we have to bring in the approach of sustainable development in the process of development, because see, so what we mean to say is that in the case of sustainable development, we talk about development, at the same time we are also being concerned, or we are also concerned about the quality of environment. So both the things should happen. It's not that after a point initially development should take place, we should not have any concern for the quality of environment, and later on when we become rich we will be thinking about environment. No, actually that may not be, that may be very late. So that is why probably the concept of sustainable development might be a better strategy. Moreover, a developing country today need not go through the same course of development on which the rationale for the EKC hypothesis has been formulated. Now, in the case of EKC hypothesis, it was believed that the economic transformation happens from agriculture dominated stage to services sector dominated stage through industrial sector dominated stage. So there is a smooth transition, we believe, that from agricultural sector, primary sector to secondary sector to the tertiary sector. But it has been found that many countries haven't gone like that in the process of economic transformation. It has so happened that many countries haven't actually experienced the industrial sector dominated stage of development at any point of time. For example, in case of India, at no point of time, Indian economy had a very strong industrial sector which actually provided bulk of the growth or maybe income in the economy. It never happened. So mostly we had leapfrogged from a primary sector dominated economy to services sector dominated economy. That has happened with some other countries as well. So that is why the impact on environment of industrialization probably may not be visible in some of the countries out there. But yes, environmental degradation is obviously one big problem for all the countries in the world. So such a pattern obviates the need for industrialization related environmental degradation in the course of economic development. So that's not mandatory or not necessary. So we can think of for service sector led the growth strategy as well. Even if a country needs and chooses to industrialize, it can leapfrog the course of technological advancement and adopt technologies which are substantially less polluting than the technologies used by countries which industrialized in the past. Because now, so even if some countries want to go for kind of heavy industrialization, that they can do that, but they can choose the production techniques which will be more environment friendly, because these technologies are already available, and this can help in actually controlling pollution to a large extent. So that is possible out there, and the people and the countries should not follow the pattern which was followed by the countries which experienced the industrial revolution initially. No, actually they can go for better methods of production because these technologies are available. They can always avoid those problems or stages, so where quality of environment got degraded too much. So the environment development trade-off might have existed historically, but it is not inevitable for a contemporary developing countries to sacrifice environmental quality for the sake of expediting the pace of development. So certain typos are there. So just ignore that. So what is meant by this is that, you see, this trade-off, even if the trade-off is there, the developing countries or maybe the relatively poorer countries should also care about the quality of environment, and accordingly they should take policy measures, and they should actually try to preserve the environmental quality and try to go for kind of lesser pollution emitting techniques of production, because ultimately environment is one thing which actually affects each and everybody. So whether it is rich countries or developed countries or the developing countries, all the countries should take into account, okay, is to take care of the